Hey guys, back with a Chevy Avalanche this time, doing a knock sensor replacement. This might be a little bit more of a project, but shouldn't be too hard. We just gotta take the intake off, or I'm sorry, your upper intake, which would be this here. Get your lower intake plenum, and then just under your lower intake plenum is where these sensors would sit. And I'll show you how to get started on that. Alright, so in order to get started, what you want to do first is go ahead and take your air box out. You want to disconnect it from your throttle body there. And actually, you want to take your box out, you can just disconnect it from here also. Take the whole tube out. Once you do that, you'll probably need to take your injectors out, your injector rail, or sorry, your fuel rail. After you do that, there's probably some connectors towards the back, that map sensor there. It's your manifold absolute pressure sensor. And you probably have a couple more laying around. I'm not too sure. Yeah, you got another one back up here. And then if anything else pops up, I will show you guys. But in the meantime, I will work on getting this air box off. And I'll show you guys how to get this fuel rail off also. It's not too hard. Now that we got that intake tube out, we can go ahead and work on getting our fuel injector rail out. And actually we have two of them, one on this side and on this side. And in order to do that, go ahead and grab yourself an 8mm of your liking. Go ahead and crack this bolt here, that one right there, that one right at the tip of my finger, and then you got another one just below here, right there, right at the tip of my finger. Now in order to get this fully out after you unbolted it, you will have a 10mm bolt right here that you need to undo. And that will pull your wire harness up and out of the way. And then after that, you should be able to pull your injector rail out. I don't know how I completely forgot this, but before you yank your fuel rail out, you do want to unplug your injectors first. That would be very helpful. So go ahead and do that first before you do anything else, because that's going to cause you issues. You don't want to mess up any of these wires. Sorry guys, forgot to mention somebody else. On the passenger side of your motor, you will also have your throttle body position sensor pigtail that also connects to your injector harness. You want to go ahead and disconnect that, and to do so, grab yourself a little flathead, get up anywhere on this little white tab here, push it back, and this should come back just far enough, just like that, where you can push that tab down and pull it out. And the white tab stays on there. And when you connect it back, go ahead and push this forward again to lock it in. Alright guys, as you can see, I kind of have my fuel rail loose. And I've noticed this tube that sits right above it connects straight to your valve cover in the back. It just pops right off. It's not hard at all. Even off the manifold right here. Go ahead and make that off if I can. Or you might even just be able to leave it. If you tilt it up like this, I would just leave it on there. You ain't gotta worry about it. And then after that, you want to go ahead and get your fuel line disconnect tool onto here and pop this line off. And I'll show you how to do that real quick also, because that can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Alright, so when you get your fuel line disconnect tools, this is what they're gonna look like. And 5/16, a 3/8, a half, 5/8, and a 3/4, and a 7/8. You're going to be using the 3/8. I actually already have it on there. But I'll show you what they look like real quick. They have these little tapered ends, or not tapered, but little ends that stick out, right? So what you do with that is just on the inside of that line, so it's nice and flush, spin it around a little bit. You should be able to, I might have to do this with another hand, but you get the gist. Usually you just shove this in there, spin it around a little bit, push forward on this line while wiggling your fuel line tool, and wiggle this around and it'll pop right out. Now that you get your fuel line on, it'll just like that. Don't worry, it will drip fuel. And just to get it out of the way, go ahead and disconnect your evap connector and even your ultimate connector if you can, just to get it out of the way, just so you don't accidentally harm those. You can grab those, push them straight to the side like that. And all you have left is that evap hose, which we can leave that on for now. We're pretty much ready to go ahead and rip our injector rail out. The way to do that, you just pull firmly up on one side, do the same with the other side, like that. Now we got our whole fuel rail pretty much out. Now all it takes is some finagling to go ahead and work it out of the wire harness. And I'm gonna put the camera down just this way. Down all the wires, make sure not to get too tight. You don't want that happening. So go ahead and keep an eye on all that as you're ripping it out. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I get this fully out. Now this is what it's gonna look like without your injectors in there. The whole fuel rail is now removed, and now we have access to all of your plenum bolts, intake manifold bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and look around to let you guys know if you have anything to disconnect. Like I do see something here. This is a hose from your, I guess just straight from the manifold here to your valve cover. It's gonna be like that one hose here that we just routed up. But this one we're gonna want to take all the way off. It's gonna be in the way when we're trying to take the plenum off. This one I cannot get by hand, or with one hand I should say. I might even disconnect it from right here. There we go. We'll go ahead and fold that one up also, just so it's up and out of the way. Now I believe from here on, after you disconnect your map sensor back here, and I believe this is an O2 sensor. I do not quote me on it, but I have, honestly, I'm not too sure what it is. I'll have to go down there and look, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'll see what else I gotta get off and I'll let you guys know. I'm sorry. So go ahead and scratch pretty much everything or not everything, but this connector here does not need to be unplugged. So go ahead and leave that there. Leave it plugged in and just disconnect it from the actual manifold itself. And then this back sensor here, you see the sides right here and right here, those are clips to actually pull your map sensor out. And if you push those out, like so, that, like this, pops right out. Guys, a quick tip, before you take this manifold off, please clean out all or any debris you see sitting down below where your injectors were. Any of that stuff will fall into your intake. You do not want that stuff down in there. It's gonna be a pain in the butt, I promise you that. So go ahead and take the time and clean that out now. I'm gonna grab a shop vac and vacuum it all out real quick. Just realized also, you gotta take this whole evap solenoid or whatever this thing is on top. You gotta take this all the way out because it connects just back there behind the motor, and I don't feel like going way back there. We're just gonna go from right here, pull the bolt out. It's a little 10mm, just one. Once you unscrew this all the way out, like that, go ahead and save that bolt somewhere safe, and then just wiggle. Maybe give it a little turn. Go. Pops right out. Go ahead and shove this down to the side, maybe by your throttle body for now, just so it's out of the way of the actual intake plenum. And now we're ready to take the whole intake out after we unbolt your 8mm each side. Hey, so I got my intake loose, but one thing I forgot to tell you guys. You have some coolant hoses just under your throttle body. One right there, as you can see I've already taken it off, and one just on the other side of that. Those two hoses need to come off, and then we should be good to lift this up and out. Alright, I'm going to try and rip this plenum out now, and I'm going to try and record myself doing so, but I'll need two hands, so bear with me if the angle's not as good as what it could be. Well, as you guys see, my little wood block did not support the phone, so I'm trying to do this with one hand now. Go ahead and get your hoses up out of the way, evap hoses. And try and wiggle this out like so. Slowly watching your connectors as well. Make sure nothing's getting too caught. Now, there's your intake. See what I mean by all those leaves and stuff? Go ahead and clean all that out now. Alright guys, now that we have our upper intake manifold completely off, I went ahead and vacuumed it all out so it's nice and clean, debris free, you know. And you're gonna have little black covers here. It's gonna look like that. Be a little dirty, you know. You can see the difference right there in between them. Go ahead and get your nail or like a flathead up under that. Pop it out like I did with this one. And that's your knock sensor pigtail. And then that will be your knock sensor right there below it. Now I gotta figure out if it's gonna be easier to take it out like this, or if I gotta take these bolts out, as long as with this whole plate in the middle to get these sensors out. But I will let you guys know that as soon as I figure it out. So I'll actually show you guys the reason real quick on why I'm doing these knock sensors. We had a check engine light come on and tell us a code for knock sensor number 2. And this is very common on these LS engines. They get water inside and corrode. I will mention now before I start taking them out, if your guys' look anywhere as bad as mine, go ahead and go in there, do yourself a favor, clean it out real nice before you take these knock sensors out. You don't want any of that stuff falling into your motor. And then after you get them out, go in there and maybe you hit it with some sandpaper with a vacuum to suck it out. But once you're ready to take them out, get yourself a 21 millimeter, I believe is what I have here. It's so faded it's hard to see on here. I believe it's a 21, I'll have to double check for you guys. But that goes on nice and snug. Actually, before you do this, grab yourself a nice big can or bottle, some WD-40, drench it. You're gonna want a lot of WD-40 in there because it's been rusty for some time. It's got a lot of water, mix that in there. So go ahead and lube it up before you crack those loose. Let it sit for like maybe 5 minutes. And after I let this sit, I'll show you guys how to take them out. Alright, as I'm letting those sit in some WD-40 and loosen up, I will show you guys. As you see on knock sensor number 2 has a green wire. Knock sensor number 1 has a blue wire. Do not mix these up, and remember where yours go. So obviously mine was more corroded in the back, so I know my green wire goes to the back. Now my blue wire was less corroded. That one obviously goes to the front. So just keep in mind, blue wire to the front, green wire to the back. All right, after you think it's been long enough for them sitting, you can go ahead and crack them loose like I have already done here. Go ahead and spin them out with your 21 millimeter socket until they're pretty much all the way loose. Set your socket to the side, go in there, pull it out. Look at that. To give you guys a quick comparison real quick of what my old number 1 knock sensor looks like compared to the new one. But I am about to pull my second one out here real quick. Show you what that one looks like as well. And then we'll go ahead and slap our new ones in. Let me get up on here real quick. Oh yeah, that's bad. That's no good. No good. Look at that top. That's not supposed to look like that, guys. That's supposed to look like that. And yeah, that's where our circuit code came from. Gotta love it. So after you got your knock sensor holes all cleaned out and everything, to install, you just slip it down and you'll feel the threads as you're in there and you start spinning it, and you'll kind of feel it like lock in, like straighten itself out. That's how you know you got it down in there. Those threads, you can grab your socket, go ahead and twist them to about 10 8, and then grab your ratchet and do like maybe another quarter turn. You don't want to tighten these too tight also. Alright, after you guys got your knock sensors installed, you can go ahead and start installing your pigtails to them. Those just clip on, and remember, green wire to the back, blue wire is your front sensor, so to the front. Now, all you need to do is plug them in, pull your wire back through here, do the one hand, and then just pop it back in when you can. I can't do it with one hand. It's a little work, but yeah, do that for both, and then route yours back the same way your other one went, just so it goes under the manifold properly, and then we can start reversing everything we did, putting it all back together. Alright guys, got my knock sensors installed, got my mating surfaces cleaned up from the manifold and to the heads, and we are ready to put the manifold back on now and start reversing the entire process. Alright guys, I went ahead and just placed my intake manifold in. Obviously didn't bolt it in just yet. I want to show you guys how to actually mount this down properly. A lot of people don't really know this, but you can't just bolt it down any way you want. You have to bolt it down in a specific order. Now that specific order I do not know off the top of my head, but I've worked on enough cars to kind of figure it out. What you want to do is start with your middle bolts on each side, so here, and then to this side in the middle, and then you want to go either way, forward or backwards to the next bolt that's right next to the one you already tightened. So go to this one after you did the one on the other side of this, go to this one, and then you want to do the same for this one, go to that one. And then you come back after you did these two, all the way to the front one that you have not done yet. And you kind of keep that process going, crisscrossing back and forth until it's all nice and tight. Alright, now that you got your intake manifold, nice and tight, we can go ahead and start first by these bottom coolant hoses, reattaching those, and then get your evap going on there, and then we can start working on to our injector, injector rail, my bad, your fuel rail. We can start doing that and plugging all of our injectors back in, and then soon enough we'll be firing her back up. Alright, I got my coolant hoses attached on the bottom of my throttle body. Now it's time for our fuel rail. Now I might not be able to record this, but you're going to go in the same way you came out. Go ahead and lift this harness up and just slip it down on into there. It shouldn't be too difficult. If you have some difficulty, just do finagling, make sure your individual injectors aren't getting caught on like a random hose like that. I've had that happen quite a few times. But yeah, just go ahead and slip that back in, and then after that, we'll start reconnecting our map sensor, our fuel lines, our injectors, and then throttle body. And after that, you're pretty much done. Sorry guys, my phone's about to die, but if you can see here, I got the injector rail right in there, just where they all sit into their holes. Now all you need to do now is just give it a firm press on each side, and then your O-rings will snap right into place where they need to go, and then you can go ahead and add your 8mm back into there and plug your fuel line back in, and that's your fuel rail installed again. So I went ahead and got most of it bolted back up. My injector rail is in, and I will show you the connectors that I have already put back in the spot just so you guys have an idea of where they go. So if you got a blue connector and a bigger connector, like I said before, this is your alternator and your evap connector. I took those off at the same time just so I didn't damage them. Blue cap and a bigger one that's kind of right next to it. It's got a black cap on it. Alternator, evap. Now, if you go back here, and remember your evap hose that we took off, or sorry, not your evap hose, your manifold hose here, this one, that attaches all the way back here to the back of your valve cover. I'd already put that back on also, but I'll go ahead and show you guys that too. There we go. And then after that, all you gotta really do is just install your injector connectors. And yeah, that's about, oh wait, map sensor. Don't forget your map sensor, guys. Ooh, that was bad. That'll make your truck run real weird, real funky. You don't want to forget that. That just snaps in again like that. Now that you have most of your stuff put back together, I did notice one of these lines is actually kind of hard to see, but you probably see it right here. Straight from your throttle body, or your manifold, pretty much from the back of your throttle body, to your valve cover. Just like that. Go ahead and push that sucker back on. And now we can go ahead and start putting our injector wires back on. Plug them in like that. For all 8 on each side. Alright, after you got everything connected back, we're pretty much ready to put our air intake tube back on. Just go ahead and make sure you got all your connectors back. I think I did forget to mention this one. This is your throttle body connector. And this white tab we had to pull out. Go ahead and push that back in after you plug it in. What else? Don't forget your injector pigtails, your EVAT pigtail, alternating pigtail, your fuel line, and your hose that goes back to your valve cover that we had to take off. And make sure your map sensor up top is plugged in, as long as with your knock sensors that we just replaced. And after that, you are complete.